All right, so today we're diving deep into a generation that everyone's been talking about, Generation Alpha.
Yeah.
You know, those kids born after like 2010?
Yeah, the ones who've never known a world without iPads, right?
Exactly, and they're fascinating. I mean, think about it. I remember when I was a kid, getting our first computer felt like a huge deal.
Oh, I bet.
This giant beige box and floppy disks.
Oh, yeah.
Now, kids are coding before they even learn to ride a bike.
I know, it's crazy. And that's really what we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of research articles, some opinion pieces, even a couple interviews with experts who study Gen Alpha.
Yeah, it's a pretty wide range, but I think the mission here is like, what makes this generation tick? What challenges are they facing? And how are they going to shape our world, you know?
Exactly. And I think one of the most obvious starting points is how incredibly tech savvy they are.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they're the first true digital natives, right?
Yeah, like born with a smartphone in their hand, practically.
Practically. And one of the articles actually calls them screenagers.
Uh-huh. I like that.
But it's true, though. They're comfortable with AI. They're fluent in internet slang, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly asking my niece to explain the latest TikTok trend to me.
Oh, totally. And that kind of comfort with technology is going to translate into a workforce that's just like unbelievably adaptable, skilled in areas that we can't even imagine yet.
That's kind of exciting and scary at the same time, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, think about it. These kids might be inventing jobs that don't even exist yet.
Yeah, that's wild. And it makes you think about education, too.
Oh, for sure. The education system needs a serious upgrade, like ASP.
Right.
If we want to prepare them for this future, we have to move beyond just rote memorization.
Yeah.
And really prioritize things like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving.
Yeah, because knowing how to find information is way more valuable than just memorizing facts, right?
Right. Especially when information is constantly changing.
Yeah. It's almost like we need to teach them how to learn rather than what to learn. You know?
100%. And that actually ties in really well with another big theme we saw in the research.
Oh, what's that?
Gen Alpha's deep awareness of environmental issues.
Oh, yeah, the eco-warrior generation.
Right, exactly. They're growing up with climate change as a lived reality, not just something in textbooks.
Yeah, I mean, they're seeing the effects firsthand with, like, extreme weather events and stuff.
Exactly. And one of the studies we looked at found that a majority of Gen Alpha believe that corporations aren't doing enough to combat climate change.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Oh, really? How so?
They're choosing to support brands that are eco-conscious. They're participating in climate strikes.
Wow.
They're really demanding accountability from governments and companies.
It's like they're not just waiting for someone else to fix it.
Exactly. And that's super encouraging.
Yeah. And there were some really cool examples in the articles about, like, young entrepreneurs developing sustainable technologies.
Oh, yeah, like that teenager who invented a device to clean up plastic from the ocean.
Yeah. That's amazing. It gives you hope for the future.
No, absolutely. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right. And this whole idea of, like, social responsibility seems to extend beyond just environmental issues, right?
Totally. Gen Alpha is incredibly passionate about social justice, too, I think, because they've grown up exposed to such diverse perspectives online.
Yeah, they're constantly interacting with people from different backgrounds, different cultures.
Exactly. And that's fostered this strong sense of empathy and a real commitment to equality.
Yeah. And one of the articles mentioned that Gen Alpha is much more likely than previous generations to identify as LGBTQ plus TF, for example.
Right. And they're also much more vocal about advocating for things like racial justice and gender equality.
Yeah, I've seen that in, like, the youth-led movements that have emerged in recent years.
Oh, absolutely. They're organizing online, they're leading protests, they're using social media to amplify marginalized voices.
Like, they're not afraid to challenge the status quo, which is really inspiring.
It is. But, you know, we can't just focus on the positive. We also have to acknowledge the challenges they're up against.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, growing up in a world that's constantly changing, that can be really overwhelming.
Absolutely. One of the experts we read about talked about this feeling of future shock that some Gen Alpha kids are experiencing.
Future shock. What's that?
It's basically the sense of anxiety and uncertainty about the future.
Oh, okay. I get that.
Yeah. And then there's the pressure to succeed.
Oh, yeah. With social media and everything, it's like everyone's constantly comparing themselves to each other.
Exactly. And that can be really damaging to their self-esteem.
Yeah. And one thing that really worries me is the whole issue of online misinformation.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge problem.
Especially for a generation that gets so much of its information from the internet.
Right. It's harder than ever to separate fact from fiction.
Exactly. And it's like, how do we equip them with the skills to critically evaluate information?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah. But I think it starts with education, with media literacy.
Definitely. And we also need to create safe spaces for them to talk about these issues.
Yeah, like open and honest conversations about mental health, about online safety.
Absolutely. They need strong support systems, both at home and in school.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, overall, it's clear that Gen Alpha is a generation with incredible potential, right?
Oh, without a doubt. They're tech-savvy, they're passionate about social and environmental justice, and they're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting.
Me too.
But, it's up to us, the older generations, to provide them with the support and guidance they need to navigate these complex challenges.
100%. We can't just sit back and expect them to solve all the world's problems on their own.
Right. We have a responsibility to create a world that's worthy of their idealism and their energy.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with one final thought for all of you listening.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
How can you, as individuals, support and empower the next generation in your own lives?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, whether it's through mentorship or education or just listening to their concerns.
Or even just having conversations like this.
Exactly. Because understanding them is the first step to supporting them.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.